Number of community organisations, and to be honest, we only do certain parts of it, and so here's Glen Eden. We're actually here, Saramco Park, and this is West Coast Road up here. There's many awa in Glen Eden, so little streams as well. And so this is the Waikumete stream, this is the Bishop stream, and this is the Whakarina, and this is where they all meet here, just down the bottom here. Look, there's many pressures on our waterways in Glen Eden and in Auckland, and so as people being interested in caring for the soil, I really encourage you to think about our waterways and the pressures that we're under at the moment. You guys might have seen in the news a couple of years ago down in the West Coast there was a blowout of a landfill. If you think about it, this is a landfill essentially, and lots of our places in Auckland are, and I worry with climate change and the flooding that is going on, what pressure that is going to put on our waterways, and then potentially eroding to expose all this rubbish. It's something for us to be aware of in the future. We used to have sewage overflows in Glen Eden because the infrastructure here couldn't cope, and so we had some keen volunteers who in heavy rain events would go and have a look at their manhole, and they would call it in if it was overflowing with sewage, and then as a result of that pressure from the community they actually did a huge upgrade here of the stormwater system. So they put in a stormwater storage tank, like huge. Pardon?
Is it big enough?
It is under Harold Moody. It is in the moment. I always worry with some of these things, like in terms of future proofing, and also in cities, the way our systems work. You know, our sewage goes to this huge interceptor it's going to, and then goes to Mangere, and I often think about, could we do these things locally? Anyway, I digress. I mean, one day I was out doing a stream assessment, looking at the weeds and, just looking at this place. This was in Green Bay at La Rosa, where we've done a huge stream daylighting project there, by the way. Spent loads of money, well spent in my opinion, because essentially it had been piped years ago in the 60s. And it was just this boggy stream bank really, and in winter it was unusable, and it wasn't used very much anyway, and so they actually daylighting means to take the pipes out and return it to a natural stream environment, and that is really cool. But the concerning thing for me is that in Auckland every year the amount of streams that we put into pipes, and like our streams play a really important role across the landscape, and they're not just, as engineers would call them, receiving bodies. Imagine what it used to be like. You could drink from the stream. Yeah. Would you do that now? No, because we chopped all the trees down. That was the single worst pollutant that we did. We chopped all the trees down, and then all the sediment eroded into the water, and sediment is actually one of our biggest pollutants here in Auckland. The national government changed the rules on tree protection, and so they allowed that to happen. So lots of private properties actually have been cutting down their trees. Council is looking at council land and how they can actually plant out more trees. So there's this big drive at the moment to try and plant on council land. So it's kind of interesting. It goes through ebbs and flows, but we need plants. Plants are so good for us, particularly with climate change. You know, like with it heating up, they provide shelter for us, they keep things cooler, they keep our streets cooler. They're just so important. They help filter, they help mitigate erosion. There's just so many benefits, and that's only talking about that. That's not talking about the what they provide for our native wildlife in terms of habitat and food. To inspire people to plant stuff, native plants in particular. That's really our focus, because one of the another really bad pollutant that's getting into the stream is carbon and zinc from our cars. So less car use would be good. You know, fortunately we've taken the lead out of our petrol, so that's improving a little bit. But yeah, there's so many pressures on our waterways. I'm involved in another project on the Faux, and that's we've got some scientists looking at contaminants that are getting into the stream that we're not even aware of yet. They call it emerging contaminants, and microplastics, huge, like huge. And plastic attracts chemicals, other chemicals hang on to it as well. And so, you know, we all need to start thinking, and I don't need to preach to you guys because you totally get it, but we need to think about stop doing harm to our environment. Like, there's not a lot we can do. There's some things we can do about the past, but let's stop now what we're doing. If we know that it's harming our environment, let's stop it. I really encourage you to think about how you can take action on the ground. Like, what is it, you know, like often we just passively go, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. But keep your ears open when you hear them talking about the tree protection laws. I know that they did want to change that. Analysis here and a planting plan. I'm just going to just stay where you are, but this is Ceramco Park. We're here. We've done planting all through here. And so in this area we've done bird monitoring, regular water quality monitoring, planting, weeding, pest control, rongoa, native plant seed collecting, workshops. We've done many things here. Really just trying to, and working with lots of school kids too. And I love art projects, art as a way to connect with people's hearts on the environment, so environmental art. Get a sense of our stream, and feel free to ask any questions. I understand, look, I've noticed on our local Facebook pages that people are talking about kaka at the moment. There's been a number of kaka sightings.
I've heard them. Yeah, I haven't seen them, but I've heard them flying over.
Oh, nice.
In the last week.
Yeah.
I thought, wow.
I'm probably, I don't know, 2 kilometres or less as the crow flies, sorry. And yeah, I'm surrounded by tall trees. I've got beautiful miro, kauri, tōtara, kahikatea, and so as a consequence I'm surrounded by birds. Not loads, but you know, we've got the birds going on. Tree privet, I mentioned those earlier. We love mulch on the edge. Mulch in our trees, particularly as it's getting drier and drier. And also I find mulch can be a good cue for care. Like people think, oh, people are looking after this area, they care about it, don't throw my rubbish. Often in our urban situations, we've only got a few metres of urban, of riparian area, which is not enough.
That's where they do the art.
So this is one of the artworks that we've got that our local intermediate did. and there's loads more. I'll come this way. And so again, this is lovely artworks from our kids. And so we have lots of education that goes into what we're doing. And so red means it's extinct, orange endangered, green it's still here, and perhaps this is what should have been here, but is not any longer.
Really, the black snail can live for 200 to 300 years. The black snail.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that was possible.
Exactly.
Wow.
I noticed in a recent Facebook post, see me, I can't help but notice the weeds. So I come down to this lovely bush area and I see the Chinese privet up the top.
And privet down there, nice healthy bush.
Yeah.
So what's the stream here, Pam?
So this one's the Hibernia.
Pioneer.
So this lady here was talking about
I was on Bishop's.
Bishop, you were on Bishop. Okay, so this is Hibernia, and so this goes through like to Meadowvale Rise and then crosses the road at Willowbrook and goes to the back of Codyland's school.
Cool. Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is the Hibernia, and often I see eels around here. Used to a lot more when my kids.
And what's it going into on this side?
So this is the Waikumete.
The Waikumete?
Okay, and so this is what we want. We want a stream environment that has lots of native plants that are helping to shade the water.
Yeah.
And but this is what happens when they denude the side actually. So over here, for some reason, I think it was to do with putting in this structure, and the next thing you know, hello, eroding.
Yeah.
And then we get the weeds colonising, you know, because you know, bare soil is essentially a magnet for a weed, for plants. Okay, something is going to colonise there, but often it's actually
Not the right thing.
not the right one. So this is a nice shaded area. This is a more established piece of bush. It's like that right through to here, and but we still have the pressure in heavy rain events. See how there's all that you know, the leaves up that tree, so you can see how high the water would have come recently, and that's the tension in urban areas. That's what happens, and so always be mindful if you've got kids and it's heavy rain, that our waterways can come up quite quickly, but hey, that's what it's about. That's natural. It's our natural systems at work. Lots of these plants, as you can see, you know, most of them can actually handle it. So we plant, you know, one of the things I see people doing incorrectly actually is putting flax right on the stream bank. That acts as a hard barrier so that when it rains, it can actually rip the side of the bank out, and it will eventually. Really good plants are cabbage trees, sedges, things that have a more slender trunk to start with, and can develop good root systems. But you can see the kawakawa obviously handles it really well. Yeah.
There's the stream after a little bit of a, it's a good little...
It's about so good, you know how it is.